So here we are outside the Emirates Stadium. Come with me on a lap of the stadium and we'll talk about game week 1, Arsenal against Wolves, and how I think this Arsenal side might fare in the 24-25 season. Here we are, this is me, Turnstile P. I'm in the clock end and I shall be there all season watching Bukayo Saka and friends, Mr. Martin Odegaard, captaining the side and seeing what I hopefully think is a title-winning challenge for Arsenal. I think we'll go deep, I think we'll go far, I know I'm going to have fun. Are you? It is absolutely scorchio here in North London as Arsenal prepare for a very rare 3 p.m. Saturday kickoff. Up first, they take on Wolverhampton Wanderers, who of course sold Neto this season to Chelsea and Max Kilman to West Ham. Shock horror, Wolves are actually my favourites to go down this season. Well, I say favourites, they're in my bottom 3. I think they'll finish 18th with only Southampton and Leicester below them. But before that, they have the tricky task, and Arsenal have the tricky task, I guess, of getting 3 points on the board. For Arsenal, it's been a fairly quiet transfer window, a little quieter than some were expecting. David Raya got his permanent move from Brentford across to Arsenal after an amazing season that won him the Golden Glove in 23-24. Elsewhere, the marquee signing, I guess, if you had to say such a thing, would be Riccardo Calafiori, a player that not too many knew about unless you followed Serie A, but his performances at the Euros, I think, elevated him into a world where, if you watch enough YouTube clips and some of those Euro highlights, we could have a real left-footed baller on our hands here in Arsenal. Other than that, it's actually been pretty quiet. A couple of players have gone out on loan with the opportunity to sell, but we've not really had anyone coming in who's going to change the dial, I think, on how this team sets up. The strategies that Edu and the Kroenkes and Arteta have put together in player recruitment is quite impressive, and I wouldn't be surprised if one more player, maybe a striker, comes in before the end of the window. I think a lot of that is based on whether Eddie Nketiah stays or gets his move away from the Emirates at long last. What we do have, however, and what is not really mentioned, is none of the big players have left. The 2 outgoing players this season were Emile Smith-Rowe, who's been plagued with injuries. Good luck to him at Fulham, he looks like he could be good. And Mohamed El Neni, who, let's be honest, was a bit-time player who'd been here a while, got some good coaching badges, was a great steward for the club, but he's not materially going to affect how this team sets up. And other than that, none of our big players have left. I think there's always been a fear that as Arsenal get more successful, the likes of Gabriel or Saliba, or maybe Bukayo Saka, leave the club for somewhere traditionally bigger, maybe a Real Madrid-style project, or maybe even Man City. But they've stayed together, and they'll be another season richer. Of course, this was an incredibly young side when Arteta took over, aside from the Deadwood. And they've really kicked on together with, hopefully, a kind of synergy that allows those goals to go in and the clean sheets at the back to stay. Some big things that I think will be different this season is a fit Martinelli. He's done well in pre-season, and I think he'll be quite deadly cutting in off the left wing. And Gabriel Jesus looking hungry again. He has a habit of looking very good in pre-season and then getting injured, so I pray that he stays fit this time. But if Jesus is on form and he can form a nice partnership with Havertz where they come on for each other, I think we'll see the goals flowing up front. And I quite expect Gabriel Jesus to get 15 or more goals this season for the first time in a very, very long time in the Premier League. As for the fans, this place is buzzing. And I don't think people have ever been happier to see this Arsenal team going out. When we line up against Wolves at 3 p.m. and North London forever is sung, I think people will yet again have one of those pinch yourself moments at the Emirates where it's loud, it's lively, we're seeing good football being played. And I think everyone is just bought into this project on the whole. I've yet to meet an Arsenal fan who wants Arteta out or who wants different players coming and going. I kind of like what we have. Another player who maybe gets a little rebirth is Alexander Zinchenko. In pre-season he was great. I was in the stadium to see us against Leverkusen and his finish, absolutely tidy. I think we might see him playing in a left-sided midfield kind of role. I think he might feature off the bench a bit between left back and midfield. But I really think he's got more in his legs than we've maybe seen at the Arsenal. I think now, a couple of seasons into his career with us, he should feel settled and ready to go. And other than that, I really don't think we've got too many injuries or players off form. This is really a squad that is ready to go. And I think Wolves will just find it a bit too difficult on day one. I'm predicting an Arsenal 4-0 win. I know that might sound a bit arrogant, but Wolves having lost their talismanic defender, Max Kilman, and Pedro Neto, their main kind of creator in the side, I think it would just be one season too much for them, especially with a new manager in post and Lopetegui having gone out. Small commercial break. If you haven't subscribed and liked, go do it now. Click. Ding! And what of our established players? Well, in Bukayo Saka, I honestly think he's going to be Premier League Player of the Season, which may sound bold to some people, but he is well on course to get 100 Premier League goals, 100 Premier League assists, to join a really elite club of 3 players. Only Lampard, Rooney and Giggs have managed to do that so far. A lot of players kind of get close to it. Bergkamp was close to it. I think Heung-min Son maybe has a chance. If De Bruyne can score 40 goals between now and retirement and Salah can start getting more assists, who knows? But Bukayo Saka is developing year on year. And I think this might be the first season where you see numbers closer to 15 goals, 15 assists, which is just phenomenal. I think Kai Havertz is on for an absolute blinder again. He was really starting to get into the flow after Christmas, having come into Arsenal for only one season. He started off a bit slow, and I loved the flack he got because it allowed us to sing the Waka Waka Hey Hey song about £60 million down the drain. Though it didn't actually cost that much, but song's a song. And as for Saliba and Gabriel at the back, their partnership is absolutely rock solid. When you put the other defensive players around them, I think this unit is going to do exactly what it did last season, to be fair. Win the Golden Glove, get the most clean sheets, and just look like a team that's capable of defending 1-0, 2-0 leads. And finally, let's talk about fitness. Arteta prides himself, as does Arsenal in general, about being a very fit club. And as I look around, there really aren't too many injuries in the dressing room. It looks like this team can run all day, and I think we're starting to get that little bit of squad depth, which if Arteta can get it right with squad rotation this season, which, let's be frank, he didn't do last season, I think you might start seeing an Arsenal team that's more resilient, can run way into the 90th minute and really navigate picking up those 3 points game after game. The thing that strikes me that's needed is a plan B. We need to stop relying on the likes of Trossard, I think, to come off the bench and save us. But if this team stayed fit, it gives us all the options we need to draft in a bit of youth, to allow players to have a bit of a break, and maybe even challenge for silverware in other competitions. So there you have it. That was my game week 1 lap of the stadium. I'm very fortunate to live outside this. Each game week there'll be something nice and new to discover as you go for a walk around the Emirates Stadium. Football is back in N5 this Saturday at 3 p.m. Miss it or miss out.